Hi everybody, my name is Cheri. Welcome to my stamp studio. I have so much stuff on my desk and it's almost all for this card. So I'm going to do one of the cards that I have a whole series of them, and you can go to my playlist. I'll put it on the blog post or under this video or somewhere for you to find it. It's called The Art of Stamping, and it's for those of us who like to stamp, not necessarily just because we're going to give the card to somebody, but because we like to color, we like to create, and so we're okay if our card takes a little bit longer to make. And I know a lot of those of you that are in my club and stuff, you're like that. I don't want them to take hours and hours, but we're okay if it has more than one technique and it takes a little bit longer. So I call those cards on my YouTube channel The Art of Stamping, and then I try to link them all together. So some of them are older, and they might not have things that are current, but it's all fun. So it has lots of pieces. So I'm going to do one of those today. This particular card is going to use elements from the Joy of Christmas suite. This is for my online card club. I'm not going to talk about card club much because if you go watch, well, it's this suite. I'll put this back in a second. I'm going to use the Joy of Noel bundle on today's card. I have used, this is the Joy of Noel. So let's take a look at some of the things that I've made or friends have made. So this one I made way back when the catalog, I don't even think the catalog was out yet. Kind of the same technique I'm going to do today, where I watercolored with the ink pads and a wink of Stella, because this set just cries out for that, and it looks really festive then. So I just pulled this out right before I did it, and I'm like, oh, kind of the same look. This one takes it up a notch. My friend Susan made this one for me. It's a little bit modeled off of the catalog. The thing is if you buy this suite, because it's the one, if you look at the catalog cover, if you look at the inside of the catalog, you look on the 2 pages where the suite's advertised, you have so many ideas. And then this is the one I did yesterday. This one uses the other bundle in the suite, Christmas Classics. This one, if you go watch this, you'll find out all about my card club. So it is an online subscription service. My cards, some of them are quick and easy, but I would say 90% of them take more than 5 minutes. They don't take forever, and they're most certainly not what I'm going to do now in Card Club. But when you watch this one, you'll get a feel for it. The supplies come to you die cut and ready to go. So you're just kind of stamping and assembling. And if you don't have the stamp set every month, you can substitute. But if you go watch this video or then this video, this one we are adding on this month, the Radiant Light, because I only do one Christmas card club a year. So this gave them another choice if they wanted to add something else. This one I also talk about card club. So you have till the 10th of October. There's lots of perks. There's lots of fun benefits to card club. So let's get this catalog back over here. I wanted to show you that I am going to use everything I'm going to use on today's card. I checked this morning is available. So nothing is sold out or unorderable. For card club, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and here I go. I didn't choose these for Card Club. So they get a half a pack of this paper, a full spool of ribbon, and then they always get a packet of embellishments. But these are very, very Christmas. And before I knew they weren't going to be available, I had already decided I wasn't going to use them. And so you'll see what I'm going to use, because the back sides of this paper is not Christmassy. So if you haven't used all your paper and Christmas is over and you've made all your cards, then you'll still have something to use. So let's get going on today's card. Not hard. So most of my Art of Stamping cards, I wouldn't say they're at all difficult. They just take more time because there's more steps to them. So some of it I will fast forward through. Like, you don't need to see me color everything. Although there's not a ton of, it might not end up taking me that long. Because, when I was making the card, I wasn't quite 100% sure what it was going to look like. So let me show you the elements I'm going to use. So we're going to use Cherry Cobbler. I feel like the only time I ever use Cherry Cobbler is at Christmas. Sometimes in the fall, but it didn't match this year's fall paper. So I'm going to use Cherry Cobbler. I am going to put this through the music notes. This is in the annual catalog. So this is a false front. It will be the same size as that. It's just easier to work with as we build our background, and you'll see why when we do it. Then for this one, I'm going to use a different piece of paper than I did on the first card, so you'll get to see 2 looks. because I'm using a 3 by 5.5. So if you're making very many Christmas cards, you don't want to buy 2 packs of designer series paper just to have this piece. So this is very similar. In fact, if you did my Try It class, these are the 2 that got substituted for each other. But then when I did the Christmas one and I wanted to show you the different look with a different paper, I saw this had the music notes. So we're going to incorporate the music notes on this one, and it'll just twist it up a little bit. So our card's going to be Cherry Cobbler. I was going to stamp a vanilla panel on the inside to make it pretty, but then I thought, no, this is already going to take long enough. So then I have from the tag, I think it's called the Essential Tags. Oh, hang on. I had said that in the last couple of card club videos that I would show you this, and this reminded me, but my table since sits pushed against the wall, I've rearranged my studio, and my cat knocked them off. So these off the back, so I haven't gotten them out. One of the other perks of card club is every month you get a color combination of something that we used. This month it might be Cherry Cobbler, because Cherry Cobbler won't probably come back. And then every 6th, 12th, 18th, 24th, on the month following, you get loyalty gifts. So in those months, they get 5 of past colors that we've used. So they can just keep them on this little ring and gives them ideas. You can write on the back. I think the one I've written on, I've taken off. But you can write on the back of what month we use those colors. So it's kind of just a fun little inspiration thing if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know what colors to use. But that's where the tags come from, because I have several sets of these because we have to cut lots of them every month. So I just broke down and bought like 4 sets of the tags. So you can do that. Then I have some of the Bedazzling paper. I have lots of it in this color because I just finished cutting paper for my Oh Holy Night. And I used scads of the bright gold. So got a lot of that left. Then I'm going to stamp and emboss on these pieces. So I have some very vanilla. And then I have some vellum. And then I have some gold foil. So let's stamp these. And then they're all going to be cut out as well. So when you stamp on gold foil, or any of the foils, it's slippery. So here's a little tip for you. Just take the little thing that comes out of the embossing kit. And I'm just going to put some powder on it, and it'll stop it from being so slippy. And I'm just going to emboss it in Versamark. It's going to get cut out with those dies, as you see. And it's the difference it makes in the slippage of having that little bit of dust on there. Plus, it will remove any fingerprints that often can happen when you have foil. Now, I'm going to use 2 different colors of embossing powder. I thought about 3 because I do have some black on this card. But when you're using more than one color of embossing powder, I have the embossing tray sitting here, but I don't want to take the time, and I'm going from gold to clear. And I don't want any of this gold powder to get in my clear. You can see where I stamped it before, and I changed my mind, and then I went back to it. So I knew that had dried on there somewhere. I don't want any of this gold powder to get in my clear. Plus, I opened a brand new one. So I'm just going to take this now, and I'm going to set it aside, and I can use it to stamp on. It's fine, but there's gold dust on it for sure, and I just don't want that in my clear powder. So if over time, here's the one I was using. It's almost gone. But if over time your clear powder starts to look like this, and it just has like flecks of color, it's just picked it up from your embossing tray. In fact, I've thought about getting the embossing tray and just having one that's dedicated to clear only. Not even white, because those colors get in there, and then when you stamp, and I really noticed it on this particular project because I'm just stamping clear. So for these 2, I'm going to use the Versamark. And you can see I'm not going to heat this. I'm not going to heat them until they're all ready. This one also has a little bit bigger of a piece than I need, because the first time I couldn't remember where I stamped. Because again, sometimes when you're designing, I'm like, I don't know what I just stamped on there. So I'm going to stamp this. There's 2 pieces, like swaggy pieces. This is the smaller of the 2 in this set. I'm going to stamp it here. I wish I was where you could talk to me, because I would say, don't let me forget to not move this piece of paper after I just told you that. And I've got the little berries. I'm going to use this one for my, no, I'm not going to use that one. I was going to say to color them, but I've got one under here. I'm just going to get a fresh one. And pop this up on here. So this is brand new, fresh. It hasn't been on my table. It doesn't have dust, because when you're using this clear powder, look how pretty this is. I'll show you again. And look how not pretty this one is. You can see, hopefully you can see, like all the dusty, dirty, just stuff that you just pick up just from using it on your thing. And I mean, mine has been used in lots of classes. I'm sure it's been to some demonstrator events. So over time, it's just picked up all kinds of stuff. But then when you're doing a clear design like this, you're like, huh, I have lots of goobies all in my design. Because I really wanted to use my tray. But when you use the tray and you go from gold to white, you have any static in your house, you know that stuff just sticks in there. So I have these on here. You probably can't see them. I got this in the Oh Holy Night class. We have a really fun card, and it has some clear stamping on it. And then I'm going to take my piece of vellum, and on this one I'm going to stamp with Memento, and I'm going to stamp the Joyous, and it doesn't really matter where because it's going to get cut out. So stamp that in black. And then I'm going to heat set these. I'm going to put this back in, and I will show you the heat setting in the camera, but I'm going to fast forward it. You can set these to a side. Now we're going to color this in. So it's a little bit, oh, I don't know, a little bit like you remember when you were a kid and you had the invisible coloring books and you would just paint color on the water on them, and all of a sudden water would appear. So I have 3 greens. There's multiple kinds of leaves on here. A little tip, if you haven't made this yet and it's the first time you're doing coloring this in, I would stamp it in black and then wash it off really good before you, or do it this way and then stamp it in black so you can see what you're coloring in. So let's start with the shaded spruce. So this one has a little bit less color on it than the other one. The other one has some of the pecan, a little bit more of the gray, but the paper on the back side is going to have that pecan. So I'm going to use a Wink of Stella. I've done this several times now, but this time we're not going to stay in the lines. So I'm just going to brush right over the top of this, and you can see our images then appear. Because this, look, that's how this is. It's smudged outside of them, right? So we're just matching the paper. So if you feel like you can't color outside of the lines, I give you total permission to color outside the lines. So I'm going to stop talking so I can fast forward this part so you can see me do it, but it'll just be fast. But if I talk, then I'm going to sound like a munchkin. hopefully you enjoyed seeing that come to life. And you can see how I've just kind of, it's not a total mimic, but the outside, the lines, of course, this has a lot more detail and a lot more. To get this look, you'd have to go with watercolor paper to be able to kind of get this smudgy. But overall, it's a fun play on it. Now, if you've ever done resist with embossing powder, you know the final step is you take a tissue or something and you wipe the color off of the embossing powder to get it to really pop. But if we do that, we're also going to wipe off the Stella. So, but what you can do is make sure it's clean. And then you just go back over here. And now that the ink has dried, you just kind of pull up. See here on this spruce? And just kind of wipe it up over the top. See right here where it's got that green on it? So just brush it back over. You don't have to do everywhere, but look at how much when you just take that olive right off the top of that embossing powder. And over here on the reds. But don't go from colored. You can go from green to greens, and that will give you a little bit more of that blending that's happening on the paper, but you don't want red in your leaves. But see how much now more white that is than that one? And we'll just wipe that right off. But if you do it with a tissue, you're going to wipe all of the glitter off. And you don't want... It's not like it falls off glitter, but it just dulls it. And we want this to be shiny. We just went to all this trouble to make it beautifully shiny. Okay, here's a really good one because this is a little bit bigger. I hope you can see it. It is sunny here today in the Midwest. In my neck of Indianapolis. Yesterday, this would not have been a good day to make this card. You wouldn't have seen anything. I don't know that I would have seen it. If you're trying to do this technique and you're like, I have no idea how she's seeing this, make sure that it's sunny. You do need to be able to see what you're doing. That looks pretty good. This one right here. Look at that. It just pops right up off there. Are there any others that really need it? I'm going to get this one. All right, I am going to, if you are watching this video, you know how to work your cut and emboss machine. So I'm going to send all these things through the dies, and then by magic, they'll just be finished. Okay, so here's all our pieces. So now let's assemble our card. Now remember, I have a card, and then I have a false front, and I'm going to work on the false front, and it'll just be easier to assemble everything. So we have our music notes from the embossing folder, and then I cut the original one was 3 by 5.5, so this is a 2-piece and a 1-inch piece, 2-inch and a 1-inch. So I'm not sure if I want to do it like this, but I think I might want to trim this in half. So I have my little paper trimmer. You know, when you change things, this won't be even because it's my tiny one. But it'll give us a little bit of the music notes then on either side. And it also, I thought this was pecan. It's actually pebbled path. I should have, if I was paying attention, I would have switched my pecan ink to the pebbled path, but it is what it is now. It'll still be beautiful. So I'm going to take this, and we're going to use a couple of different adhesives on this card. So anytime you are putting adhesive on something that's gone through an embossing folder, if you pull on it, it will rip it up. So I'm going to put it on here. We had a very interesting discussion on my Zoom team meeting the other night. Stampin' Up! Has a great sign-up special right now, so if you've ever thought about being a demonstrator, join my team. We have interesting discussions. But it's funny because some people are like, I don't understand why Stampin' Up! Sells this things. We were talking about adhesives. And what some people love, other people are like, oh, if they ever stopped selling that, I would die. So with an adhesive, it's kind of a personal choice. So don't tell somebody that you don't like it because it may be their favorite thing. I personally am a fan of seal. So if you watch my channel, you probably have realized that I do love me some seal. I like it on here because if I get something when you're designing, that's probably part of the reason I like it. I've never had one break. I don't ever have an issue with one. I've never not used a whole one on a spool because of an issue. So, but I like when you're designing, if I don't like it, I often tell you, especially when I'm doing classes, not to press hard, because if you got it in the wrong place, then you can just pick it up and move it. So this is the ribbon that comes in the suite. I did think about coloring it. You can color it with a blend, but then in the end, I love the vanilla. This paper is white. I stamped on vanilla, and then this is vanilla. So I'm going to just go around the whole card, which again, sometimes you want to put ribbon on a card and you're like, that's not going to work because there's no way to attach it. But when you're working with the false front, you can do whatever you want, and then you're just going to stick your front on here. And so I was able to tie the ribbon this way, whereas if I was just working on my card here, it wouldn't have worked, and it's harder to run embossing folders through that. But I wanted every inch of paper to show. That's why I'm just using a whole 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm going to tie a little knot here, make sure everything's laying flat and nice. And then I'm going to take my tag, which thankfully has a little hole already in it. So just poke that through. Easier said than done when you're on camera. Our new little tip, that's what I use to get all of the dies out, also can shove these through. See? Perfect. Pull this through, and you want it close to the top, but you don't want it to go a funky angle. So just pull it till it's laying nicely. So it's up there, but it's not yanked all the way to the top. And then take this bit, and you're going to tie this little bit loosely. Again, you want it to stay, but the knot is more important because it's not going anywhere. So it doesn't have to be like jammed up there. So pull that. And then again, this, you want it to be pretty. So hold this, everything's loose and flat, and I'm paying attention to what my bow looks like as I tie it. People always ask, like, how do you get such good bows? If you watch the Card Club one, we do a false bow with a little glue dot. That's how that one looks beautiful, but this one is an actual real bow. My black fingernails do not help when you're tying black ribbon. It's hard to see where it is. So now make sure it's all how you want it before you pull it tight. And again, don't pull it. It's not going to untie. So don't pull it so tight that you lose the pretty flat thing. It also helps when you go take it to the post office if this isn't a hard thing. So just pull it like this and see how this is still nice and it's not hard. If you're worried about that coming in done in a second when you use your two-way glue, or your not two-way glue, that's a blast from the past. Your fine tip glue, just add a little bit of glue to that. So now we have this, and if you don't like where it is, look, you can move it up, you can move it down. Nothing's attached, but once we glue this to the card, everything will be securely in place. So I'm going to move that a little bit higher. Now, all of my pretties, I want to be behind my tag. So we have this. It's going to show a little bit more too on the music notes. So I'm just going to use my Stampin' Seal. I'm just going to make a little swag behind it, but you do have to remember to keep everything on here because this is the size of your card. Sometimes I let things go off the side because I'm going to put my front on. This, you can still see. I know some of you are probably like, oh, she's using that thing that says Noel. I almost used the stripe paper. You can kind of see it. It's fine. I'm not throwing away perfectly good paper because I accidentally stamped on it and then didn't use it and then decided, oh yeah, I am going to stamp on it and didn't know where I stamped. So that's how that all came about. So I'm just kind of building the little swags behind there. There's no right or wrong. On the other one, I put this on top of that, and afterwards, I added a little bit of glue to hold it all in place, and I decided I didn't like that. I decided I wanted a little bit of color over here, especially on this paper. The other paper kind of has color on both sides, but I think this one needs it over here. And then we have all of these little guys. They're part of the reason I added just a fraction of glue, but you need to be careful because I want my tag to move. I like the movement. So I'm just laying this on here and just pull, and it gets just enough on the top of that it will hold it in place. No, on the other ones I did use glue. I glued them all in. And your tag is not going to move all the way, so nobody's going to see this part of it. So underneath it doesn't look great, but it looks beautiful from the front. This was the other reason I put that holly on this one on the other card. It just gave me a little bit more places to stick these. We got more over here. Actually, the glue will stick less to this than this will because the glue will dry. All right, now let's stick our Noel letters on. You know what's great about using the music notes is there's lines, so you don't have to worry about it being crooked. You are going to need to use some glue. At least I think it will stick a lot better with glue. But you don't have to glue the whole thing. And it looks so pretty when you emboss the gold and the gold foil. So I'm going to go for this line here. They fit just on this tag. So there to there. Get my O on the same line. And just inside the tag. I like to let it, I don't put glue on the whole entire thing because you can let it sit for just a second and then kind of move them around. Let's get our E. I'm going to go down to this line down here. And then the L. Now just take a look. Don't look at everything else, because if your tag is a little crooked or something is making you feel like it's crooked, you'll think it's crooked even if it's not. So just take a second, make sure everything looks straight. My O can probably pull around this way. My little shepherd's hook will pull it. Just a fraction. There we go. And now I know it's all sticking up everywhere, so just take one of your blocks. You will need to clean them later, but that's okay. I'm just going to let that sit there. And then we are going to look at the embellishments because I showed them to you in yesterday's video, but I didn't show you how I did it. I didn't know that people would want to see how to do that. I feel like we've done it for a while, but because Stampin' Up's up their embellishment game, sometimes we don't need to do that. But remember I told you I chose these because I wanted it to be able to use them year round. If people don't use up all of the Christmas side of the paper. So this is just our basic rhinestones. You can use them silver because there is paper in this suite. This piece right here that's just green leaves, and I actually used that on a bridal shower card. And so the rhinestones just silver would have been perfect on that. But you just take your blends, and this is actually dark poppy. It doesn't have to be the exact color. I think the poppy makes it a little brighter. You can just play around with it and use whatever you have. I used all the big ones. I didn't realize that they were in the package like this. So just color them. And because I know I'm going to be using these for Card Club, it's 11 o'clock in Indy. I need to get this done so I can get to the post office. I decided if I filmed this, then while I was getting ready, it could download. You got to multitask, right? This is the light pecan pie. And you can just play with colors. Take a row of them. But once the blend dries, it's permanent. This is shaded spruce. Now my rule with embellishments is 5 to 7 on a card. None of this 3 stuff, unless it's like a butterfly or something, or a big one, because this is dark black. Embellishments don't belong on this little piece of paper in your drawer, especially for you to stumble upon them in 5 years and be sad that you still have them, because on here they're going to make you happy. In a drawer in 5 years, they're going to make you very sad. So if you use, there's 140. So in Card Club, we make 6 cards. So if they put 7 on their cards, they will have used 42. They'll still have 100 left. So I think sometimes we feel the need to not use them all up. I don't know where that comes from, but it's a girl thing. I know, we all do it. Use them. It will make you happy. It makes your cards so sparkly and so beautiful and so pretty. And there's plenty on those papers. The only one this time that there's not a huge amount of is the stars for Oh Holy Night. But I mean, there's only supposed to be 1 star over Bethlehem, right? And there's big stars and there's little stars. Even then, there's more of them than what you could need on your Christmas cards. But usually, I mean, there can be 200, there can be 250 embellishments in one of our packs. So if you use 3 at a time, that's why you have them in your drawers, because you're not putting them where they belong. They belong on the card. So put them there. Trust me, it makes you happy. So we have this. Now you do want to make sure that you lift this up and that it's still moving. See, those are already nice and pressed flat. I'm going to put this on here. I do cut it a fraction smaller than the card front, a fraction, because that way if that was off a little bit, it's still on the card, because you don't want to, if it's exactly the right size, then sometimes it doesn't work. So we have 2 things down. We have this, and then we have, remember we stamped this. Now people always ask me how I put my vellum on. Here's the secret with this one. I'm just going to put adhesive everywhere, because it holds it nice and flat, and then it also, you can see through the back better. So I'm going to just say Joyous Noel. And when it's got adhesive everywhere, you don't see the adhesive because it's everywhere. And the seal is not a color, it's clear. Now let's get our embellishments. I'm going to save these for Card Club. It's the only packet I have at the moment. More are coming when the Card Club order gets here, but I wish I would have used glue. I did that the first time, but see, now everything's in here nice and fancy. If you're worried about your bow coming untied, you can make it a little bit smaller. I guess my other one's kind of big too. So let's go for 7. 1. Okay, use the proper tip. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sure some of you thought 7 is overkill, but look, 7 and you hardly even notice them. So if you had 3 on here, you'd be like, oh, are there embellishments on your card? It does make a difference on the other one because I have bigger ones. So here's this one. So this is the paper that has the music, has this side flipped. This other one didn't have music on the background. On the back side, I don't remember what it is. It's just wood. See, on this one, I kept everything over here, but the paper kind of fills it out on this side. It's just lay it all together before you start gluing it, or use your seal and just use a little bit, and then you can pull it up. Super fun. So I will mark the playlist down under this video for the Art of Stamping videos. I know sometimes I miss them. You can also, it's always in the title. So go to my channel and just search Art of Stamping and that will pull them all up. If you're interested in Card Club, all of the details, I'll put that link as well below the video. It's always in my emails, like from not the first of the month, but those first few days. You have to sign up by the 10th. Everybody have a great day. Bye.